I'm leaving in the morning, had to go ride a blind. I've been mistreated, don't mind dying this morning. Ooh, you know what that means. Ooh, child, said I don't mind dying.
Hi, my name is Jens Haig. I'll be your GK-12 fellow this year in Mr. Landel's class. And what that means is not that I'm a student teacher. I'm a graduate student at University of Idaho, and I'm coming into your class to learn how to teach, and also to be a scientist, to show you what a scientist really is and what scientists really do. So, it's no big surprise that Mr. Landel's a pretty good teacher, but I think you'd be surprised to know that Mr. Landel has had more training in teaching than most college professors. And because I want to be a college professor when I'm done with my graduate school work, I want to learn how to teach so that I can do a good job at the college level. So that's what Mr. Landel is going to help me do, and that's what you guys are going to help me do as well. But it's not a one-way street, and I'm really hoping that I can show you some of the things that I've done in my scientific career. Science is about critical thinking and gathering evidence to prove a point. And I think that that's valuable for everybody, especially in the times that we live in. We all have a cell phone, we all have a computer. Those are all based on scientific discovery at various levels, all the way from the quantum level to the physical level and electromagnetism. We all deal with the weather, and we all deal with the world around us. I work in fisheries ecology, and I do all of my work in rivers. So I hope what I can do in the time that we're together this year is to get you to think. If there's nothing else that I do, I hope that I get you to think, because I think that's the most important thing that anyone can learn in their time in high school and in college. So, with that, here's a little bit about what I've done in my life and who I am. Oh hey, how's this for a weird science job? I was paid $15.50 an hour right out of college to pop microwave popcorn for 3 weeks straight. All they wanted to know was how many old maid kernels there were and how much volume it popped to, and we could eat as much as we wanted. I learned that there's very different popcorn in Japan. They have sushi nori flavored popcorn, which tastes like seaweed, and then they also have, I think, the best popcorn I've ever had, which is a sweet cream flavor. So, if you ever decide to become a scientist, you can expect to have some pretty interesting jobs after you graduate from college. I study these, ball chinook salmon in the Snake River. You see, they're interesting because as juveniles, they've always hatched out of the gravel in the early spring and left for the ocean in the fall. But in the last 10 years, a good portion of the population is staying in the river for an entire year. They hatch in the spring and they live through the summer, and then they go past when they would normally enter the ocean, and they stay all winter until they leave for the ocean the next spring. and nobody really knows why. So I'm studying the way that these salmon move in the Snake River tributaries and trying to understand why they're staying longer. And the way that I'm doing that is through a technique called otolith microchemistry. And an otolith is an ear stone, which is made out of calcium, and all bony fish have them. In a salmon, otoliths are right underneath their brain, which is behind their eye and in the middle of their head. And we dissect adult fish as they come back and remove their ear stone, which is about the size of this peanut. The otolith grows like a tree, and a ring is put down every day that corresponds to their growth. It's wider if they're growing faster and narrow if they're growing slower. Some of the chemistry of the water that they're in gets recorded in this otolith. We can determine where they're from because every river has its own unique chemical signature. And by reconstructing the chemistry and the growth and knowing about when they hatch, we can trace their movements through the system until they get to the ocean. And hopefully, when I'm done with my graduate research, we'll have some idea of why these fish are staying in the river longer than they ought. I once worked for a company that made devices to help cure heart attacks and narrowing of the coronary arteries. This is a model of a coronary stent. It goes into the arteries that feed the muscle of your heart. If you can imagine, your heart muscle is pumping, and those arteries that go around the outside of your heart move as your heart pumps. In 3 dimensions, they twist and bend. And if you put something stiff in, well, you're going to change the way that that bends. And it was my job to look at cadavers and animals, and even video, 3-dimensional video from living patients, to understand how those arteries are stiffened and whether it makes a clinical difference. You know, I used to work for a company that used this stuff, and they didn't feed it to cows and they didn't eat it. Instead, they used yeast, same stuff that makes this bread rise, to turn that corn into this. Not water, but the bottle that it comes in. And the cool thing about that is that their bottles were completely biodegradable. So if you put this one in your compost pile, it would be there forever. If you put one of their bottles in, it would be gone in 2 weeks. The microbes would have completely eaten it. And the really cool thing about that is that if you're able to make plastic from corn, and if you can make it from the entire plant, well, you can save yourself from using quite a bit of this.
I'm leaving in the morning, have to go ride a block. I've been mistreated, don't mind dying this morning. Ooh, you know about that, babe. Ooh, child, have to go ride a block.